thank you for having us at JournalismAI, right? I just saw your session, right? So it was good.
Thank you.
And you get double duty, right? So,
Yep.
So welcome to our session. This is the first of two. We have one today, and once I hopefully see the wonderful presentation on the screen. I tried to make that work, and it did not work like magic. But that's okay. I have a wonderful presentation. I'd like to get to the second slide too. Yeah. So vibe coding lab, right? Getting to your next big idea. We're doing today, we're going to talk about what's inspired us and give you, I'm sure I'm going over slides that are already further down in this presentation, but that's okay. But this is the first of two. We'll have this one today, and then tomorrow we'll be, I think, in the other room to talk about, to really work on these things and to have everybody buy in and figure out what they want to do. And hopefully our ideas will inspire what you guys want to think about now and in the future. We all know. Yeah, so go ahead. I know you are.
Yeah, so if you was here for the previous session, I'm a strategic and innovation consultant with organizations like Fathom and Summer Media, and also work with El Surti as project manager of the IQA initiative. That was part of the innovation challenge this year. And yeah, I live in Montevideo, Uruguay, and it's great to be here.
And I'm Restivo. I created a tool called YESEO, worked with the Oglethorpe Echo in the Journalism AI Innovation Challenge, which I said the whole term. I had it in the notes, so that's why I said JournalismAI, even though everybody, welcome to the JournalismAI Festival, right? And yes, I'm in the USA, so sorry, but yeah, just feel how bad I have to feel. So yeah, I have to fly back in a couple days. So yeah, our plan, I told you I already covered this in a slide. We want to inspire you with what we know and what we've learned. And tomorrow we want you to try your new ideas. We're going to give you a resource to hopefully help you think about what those other ideas could be. I'm sure everybody in here has probably thought of something they probably want to do. And a lot of the presentations from today, I feel like, have inspired me to think of other ideas beyond what I've thought about already. And yeah, and everybody on the live stream, wherever you are, out on the internet, will also hopefully be able to scan the QR code to get this link to be able to access it, and we'll hopefully be able to get it to you guys.
Yeah, and I think, added to what you say, I think that the point of having us for this particular workshop is that maybe vibe coding for prototyping and trying new things is one of the most accessible things that you can do with the AI at the moment as a journalist. It, as I was saying in the previous session, it paves a way for conversation in between editorial and tech teams, because you have an actual product and an idea of how it looks like, how it could operate, and it can take you to further places with that. So yeah, we are here to explore that universe, and hopefully, like, people in the room and people that are watching us through Zoom or are going to
live stream.
Yeah, live stream.
So yeah, so we had, I don't know if you, so people probably have heard what the definition of vibe coding, or maybe you haven't, but that's okay. I know a lot of these new terms have started to come up over the last few years. I feel like I'm learning a new one every other month, or somebody's coming up to me and saying, did you think about MCP? And then you get vibe coding, or then maybe I think MCP was before that one, but now we're into agents now, right? So we're all over the place. So these, I think, are two of the definitions I think we found. Yeah, one is from Simon, which I clicked on, which you could see in my wonderful Google Slides here. But it's to kind of think about, or maybe forget the code even exists, right? Is to see stuff, say stuff, run stuff, copy paste. And then Simon, I wanted to shout out to, right? Just building without reviewing it, which, for a lot of us who probably put some code on the internet, could feel a little dangerous, right? And so, yeah, so I thought about, like, just what is the most practical version of this, right? Like, if you were to go out and define it to your friends, right? Or somebody who maybe isn't in the journalism AI space, what would you how would you kind of define it, right? So I made this quiz. You're going to see quizzes are a little bit about this, but right, the practical sense, right? So hopefully a lot of people have been in an autonomous car before. I know sometimes we call them self-driving, right? But when you get in the car, right, do you sit in the driver's seat with your foot next to the brake pedal? Do you sit in the back seat and wait to get to your destination, or do you lay down and take a nap, right? And those are kind of like how I think about all these different things, right? Like LLM assisted coding, right? An LLM gives you the answer, but you're still going to try it, you're still going to test it, you still need to figure out if it works for you. You sit in the back seat, right? You're moving towards it, but you know your seatbelt is hopefully on. If you're laying down and taking a nap, you're really trusting the machines right now. You're really leaning into those vibes, and yeah, I think like another way to, I think this was your right, like another way to kind of think about it, trying to think about that problem to solve.
Yeah. I think that this is something that, having worked with several newsrooms this year on vibe coding, what you just stressed about, like just going by prompting an LLM and asking it for, to deliver to you a specific prototype is one way to tackle things. And then there's another level, which is beyond vibe coding. You can also ask another LLM or go outside and try to have a refined version of the code to solve whatever is not working, and working on a sort of combination of those two things is the sort of thing that journalists who tackle this technology and at the very beginning don't really get, and it's a subtlety, but it should be addressed. Like, it's not only what you do at the vibe coding app with your prompt. You can just come back and forth using different reasoning models and different capabilities.
Yeah, I feel like one of the things that's super interesting that we've talked about is just like that, and I see it in the slides behind you as you're talking, it's kind of that like product discovery. Like, I'm making something to then show to user test with somebody to say, hey, does this prototype actually work for you compared to what you've maybe done before, or maybe it'd take you a lot more work to get to that.
Yeah, and it's a little bit in those slides, right? Like, so when do you vibe code? Because this is another recurring thing that happened when trying to get out to work with journalists, which is like, okay, I want this super duper tool that gathers audience insights and then converts it to stories and then gets copies created and publishes them. Yeah, well, that's a little bit tough. So let's just try to filter down on when do you can vibe code, and obviously prototyping and putting simplicity at the very beginning. Again, I feel like this is a communication tool as well as a solution. And when you have an idea of the architecture that you want, and when you want to try something fast, those should be your initial signs or the initial symptoms of like something that this should probably be vibe coded. And having said that, the technology moves out so quickly that maybe next week the next update of these solutions will allow you to go even further. Now, the purpose of this is to keep it trying every week, at least in my personal experience.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So like, it says my example is coming up next. So I'm going to take you through a couple examples of what I've been able to pull off. But first, I want to talk about, I said, I feel like we've been doing some of these things before and we've just hadn't had a name for it. This is going to be a little bit much, but I'll just try to blow through it very quickly. When I thought about vibe coding, I thought about what we kind of talked about earlier, right? Like, I want to make something, I don't understand how to do it. Maybe I don't understand how to do it yet. Maybe I need to kind of get there with some help and then push it forward. So for me, working in the Innovation Challenge with the Oglethorpe Echo, one of the biggest problems I needed to solve very quickly was to take this one app that existed, that was YESEO at this point. It was the one app that did all the work for everybody, and to break it into component parts that would just do all those different jobs. But I had never really done something like that before, so it was kind of intimidating, but I needed to do it. It was an obvious need. So I was, fortunate or unfortunate. So I ended up with a few days alone because my wife and son had COVID. So I happened to just be sitting in an empty space for 4 days and was able to kind of cook up these ideas. Hey, I have everything I need to do. I built this image. I built this Docker image for what I need to do. Can you help me get this to Kubernetes? And then it built a fun YAML file, and then I had to continually test and figure out that this was actually going to work, or if it wasn't going to work. And then it kind of eventually became more towards the LLM assisted coding, where it was like, I need help, but then I need to push it forward. So So I'm proud that I was able to embrace it at least to build something. But I think when I think about vibe coding for journalists, and I know we're talking about how we can serve journalism, right? I always think of this first question: what if you had a data reporter next to you for every story you write? I'm sure if I asked everybody, they probably have a data reporter, or I hope you do. But then when you say you want more data reporters, then they say how much data reporters cost, and then they say, oh, well, we can't have everyone have a data reporter, right? But I think in embracing kind of vibe coding to build, how can we use it to tell stories? I think one of the other presentations earlier today talked about how you could use a different, I'm trying to think of the right words. It's how to think about how to serve different audiences with different information, how people will understand your stories differently. So we need to provide different experiences to kind of meet those needs. So think about that, and we give somebody a straight article, but that might not be enough for somebody. Maybe they need a quiz, maybe they need an infographic. Maybe there are other pieces to that story that we can give them to understand the information. So I always think about that like in terms of the context of the concept of EAT, right? The extra E for experience, and thinking about how we can do that. So I have a couple of examples. I'm gonna get on the computer for a little bit, so don't mind me. But one of the examples I have is around reporting. I am from the United States. So I took a PDF report from NOAA, the Oceanic Administration, Atmospheric Administration, I want to say. Somebody will correct me if I said that wrong. But I created a story based on this PDF of the reports of hurricanes in the state of Louisiana, and I was able to create an interactive and quiz based on this experience. At first, I kind of gave the PDF and said, hey, write a story about it, which is not the best journalism in the world. But then I asked for more charts and other things, and then one of the things that I prompted in here, and I'll be able to show you guys here pretty quickly once I find where the mouse is supposed to go. I'll be able to show you here. So I did that in Firebase initially, so Firebase Studio. If you guys have used Firebase Studio before, I put the PDF of the report into the kind of folder that was holding all the information. I said, hey, write this. What's very interesting is this image changes every time I do it, even though I haven't asked for any image to change. So it's a weird city look right now, even though it's supposed to be about like storms and tropical storms. I was in New Orleans for the Online News Association's conference in September, and in September in the United States is actually peak hurricane season, so felt like a perfect time to bring up something like this. I didn't jinx anything, which was great, but you could see, right, taking this PDF, I was able to turn it into a story that I was able to build a bunch of different interactives based on the data that was provided by the PDF. And then I was able to take all, and yeah, this one's not very impressive, right? But it's like, try to experiment and try to lean into how many different things we can build in this scenario. And then you might see a lot of weird or like very forward language, and that's on purpose because I told the model that I wanted it to write like they write on the Weather Channel, where if it's 70 degrees and sunny, it for some reason says that you've avoided death today. So, so it really emphasized the fear casting element of it, and that's why actually there's another thing down here that I'll show you guys, but this is just trying to categorize all these different storms across all time, right? They start around the 1700s and then kind of call the way up to today. And these different kind of more powerful storms over time. I can emphasize the thing about the climate changing that we could probably talk about for a while. But try to build different graphics. Interesting thing about these graphics, that sometimes they would change for no reason, right? And I think that's something we need to just make sure we're showing off that, right? Hey, things will suddenly change on you for no apparent reason. And this one was supposed to categorize based on the category of storm, but I leave this mistake in on purpose so that you could see the difference. And then you could see, right, a dire warning, this forecast. And then I used, so these last two things, which I'm going to show off pretty quickly, but they are using the Louisiana Hurricane Preparedness Guide here. This is kind of a list of, like a kind of an accordion interactive of, hey, what do you want to do? What is a resource? This resource for hurricane preparedness. This will give you all the information. And when I prompted the extra fear casting, you can kind of see all the different things that it says in here, right? You will have 5 minutes, not hours. Credit cards will be useless. You'll be trapped under stuff. So fortify your shelter, right? And this is all from vital information that's been given by the state, right? So then I was able to take that and turn it into a quiz, which I'm actually going to show you. One of the things that I have for you guys today is that I've actually taken all this information, is interesting, from Firebase and put it onto a page on my website. So this actually took longer than I thought, and it actually worked out that using Claude to kind of rebuild this one worked a little bit better. But at the same time, when you scroll down here, you can see the charts actually change. It uses some of the global styles that I have on my website for all of you CSS nerds out there. You'll see that it uses some of those styles, but then it turns out it was actually giving different styles for some of the other parts of the charts, which I found fascinating in its own fun way. And then you can see, right, the dire warning that we have. But the similar thing we have here, your protocols, same thing, very wonderful list. And then you have this wonderful quiz, right? So quiz about, you have 60 seconds to make the right choices, is reinforcing the information from the preparedness guide in a quiz format. I am going to get some of these incorrect on purpose, but you have 60 seconds to answer, right? What is the first thing you grab? You probably grab your go bag, but let's say you grab your family photo albums, right? And then it very much tells you, because of what I told it, to say no, right? And this one, hope for the best, they look strong. This is not true, of course. Hurricane force winds will shatter windows. There's pretty, as you can probably tell in the recent news. This one, you probably will have to stay in the car, and hey, I get rewarded for this, which is great. This one, how you get storm updates. You use a battery-powered or hand crank radio. That is the best way. But I'm going to use my smartphone for some reason, right? We all know that cell phone service will go out when these kinds of things happen. The most dangerous part of the hurricane is it's the storm surge. So it is actually the storm surge and flooding, not the wind and not the lightning. So that is another thing to keep in mind. And when you get one question wrong, you're told you're a future casualty. So it really leans into making sure that you're fearful of everything, a little bit more than maybe I thought it would. But it kind of embraces that aspect of just like, hey, like let's fearcast, right? You could see how the headline changes. It's Bayou winds unveiled, and then the headline just says, under siege, a superstorm. And I actually just showed you all this right now. But one of the fun things about this, table here, which I'm going to try to do this quickly, is you can actually copy this table and paste it in the browser, and it'll just pop up. Let's see if I can just do that quickly enough. Let's say I just want to open a new tab for no reason, because why not? I'll just open up the inspector. Should have been ready to do this a little bit faster. Right, I could just paste that. Will this work? Drum roll. Watch, it doesn't work. When you do something live, it could be embarrassing, right? But no, it pastes right in there, right? So I could use this information and I could put that in my story right away. I would have something new and have something new for my audience. I already showed you guys that you should get your questions right. This is actually where I was supposed to do the live demo, and according to the slide notes. I emphasized that using a battery-powered or hand crank radio is the safest way to get storm updates. I was a Reynolds Journalism Institute fellow when I built YESEO, and in the class after mine, Maria Ars came up with a guide called Arena, and how to use hand-powered radios in emergencies such as this, because she was affected by Hurricane Maria, right? So it's important to understand there are resources out there to help you. And all of this seems very nice and important, but yeah, it's all in the United States. So how could I relate this to London, right? I thought about what I was going to be doing to think about my next idea. And my idea was, hey, on Thursday morning, I have a few hours to explore the area. What should I do? So I got notes from friends. I looked at the tourism guide from visitlondon.com, which I have no reason to plug whatsoever. But I said, hey, can I get a game where I can try to play this, right? And then, yes, I did this part where I am an American, so I will make sure to put very American-based tips in here to make sure that I'm emphasizing how American I am. And then at this point, I'm here, I got to do a live demo of this, right? So better yet, so I built it using Claude. Which you could see here, and I aggressively prompted for a very long time to fix the bugs. But what's even cooler is I was able to pull this out of Claude and put it hopefully right here, yeah. Right here on this website, which I was able to match all this, you can see the styles change. And then you could see, hey, this extreme edition, I have 4.5 hours to get there to do anything before I go to the airport. I will leave my bag in the hotel, which is a good idea. And then I will be able to take, hey, I have my current time, I could spend some money, I will be able to go to the airport if I need to. I'll be able to drop in, hey, where should I go next? I want to go to Big Ben, because why not? I'm an American, by the way. So, right, and then I also made sure to emphasize when I prompted, like, Americanize everything down for me, right? So think Capitol building, but with more drama. So, but then as I continue to do this, I thought about just like thinking about how I get to places, right? Do I want to take the tube? Do I want to go? Do I want to walk? So I made sure to emphasize directions, and you can see how simple the directions try to give it to you. And yes, traffic comes from the opposite direction, as I already noticed. And then I could pick, hey, do I want to walk? Do I want to take the tube? Let's see, I'll try to walk, why not? And then I've already spent that time, the time's gone away, and I haven't spent any money yet. Let's see if I go to the Tower Bridge, and see if I take the tube. I'm trying to do a couple of things, because in the middle of all this, I'm supposed to get something. So now if I continue through my scenarios, I can see, hey, I'm going to arrive somewhere where it's not even open yet. Probably a bad idea. So, so why would I want to wait an hour for something to open? So I can wait, I can walk, I can take the tube, so I can see, oh yeah, so here's what I was trying to get to, right? I put these kind of traps in here, which is called Fancy Tea House. A charming sign advertises authentic English afternoon tea and that I'm moving on with the mouse there, for only 15 pounds with scones. So, right, do I want to waste my time and money, or do I have a flight, right? And I can earn points based on this. Of course I want to waste my time and money, that's fine. But as you see, the time kind of changes, and then if I don't actually get to the airport in time, it'll tell me, hey, you missed your flight, but I made it this time. So now this site actually exists, and I'm actually going to give a wonderful way for you guys to get this, because hopefully everyone on the YouTube can still see it, because you can scan the QR code and give and sign up to get it. I have just a quick survey there, but I'll send you the link. You're probably not surprised. I want to send you the link myself, because this is going to be live on the internet for the first time, and I'm the only one who's really looked at it. Actually, you looked at it. So,
yeah, I did.
You did. It worked. So, but as somebody who puts on things on the internet for the first time, you always worry when people do this. When I first put YESEO out there, the first question was, are people going to find it? But then it was also like, what happens when too many people find it, right? Mm-hmm. So I want to be careful about how much traffic it gets. That's why I didn't. So like some of these things like Claude and Firebase Studio, right? You could expose or publish these to the internet and be like, okay, like have at it, everybody else. But I don't want people to spend a ton of money on my keys to do that, especially if you're building something that's like, I'll create a tool that'll recommend something to you, that'll use keys, right? That's when you're like, hey, probably don't want to do that. So yeah, that's been a lot of what I've thought about, like thinking about just how to serve journalists and trying to build on the journalism, the storytelling that we do. But I see you've got examples too, so I'll let you to it. Yeah.
So what the purpose of the session when we were creating it with Ryan was to inspire again. So it was interesting through our conversations how his approach to vibe coding was maybe in some aspects more content oriented, and mine was because of my position as consultant and facilitator for AI programs, were more like into not so much content creation and more like at an operational level. But my experience with vibe coding started with creating my personal website, which was something that I wasn't able to do. Like this was in April 2025, and I couldn't get a coder to have my website the way I wanted it, and with zero coding experience, and just sick of my Squarespace not functioning and not having the options that I needed. I just decided to give it a go to Hugging Face deep site, and very quickly I could come up with a prototype of a 3-language like multimodal sort of website. And obviously the tool wasn't perfect, and as I was saying previously, having to switch in between like my prompts to the DeepSight app and a more potent LLM in terms of reasoning and coding was essential. But I sort of managed to, you know, come up with it as my first experience. And at some point I ended up like working with some other concepts as things that were like, I like to see how far the tool could take me. And, you know, I even learned how to, you know, in terms of moving the page out to the internet, like you have a little bit more experience than me. This was my first time doing that, and I could also learn that like quickly through an LLM, and it was amazing the level of assistance that I had for such a tiny project that for me was like ginormous. And fast forward to a month or two after that, and my undergrad students ended up like creating the prototypes for a creative industries course, and through other apps, like it could be DeepSight, it could be Lovable at the moment. So Google AI Studio was about to land, and that's how a month later, and this was September, so it's just like yesterday, I joined for AI prototyping sprint on behalf of Fathom in Patagonia, Argentina. And you know, the challenges that we saw while trying to come up with a specific project for newsrooms, these were 8 regional and hyperlocal newsrooms in Patagonia, were less content-oriented and more like, as I was saying, operational and audience-centric and efficiency sort of based. And Google AI Studio was already out and it was, we could see, the most powerful interface for intuitive vibe coding. So the first example that we could come up with my partner Claudia Baez was, let's try to, you know, create a quick style guide assistant of sorts. And you can do that like easily as a gem, but at that moment you couldn't share a gem. It was only an individual sort of thing, and plus a gem is neither a prototype nor something that you might be able to test and expand from. So, and you know, again, and I'm stressing this too many times, I'm sorry, in product discovery, to have an effective prototype is key. Mm-hmm. So I decided to run it through Google AI Studio, and it ended up giving me this, like with some sort of a quick prompt, and you know, the archives as its knowledge base. I created this assistant, maybe more, you know, better looking if you like pixel art and, you know, you play video games in the 90s. And, you know, pixel art seems to be a trend in this event. I already saw it in Sanuta's presentation. And it was interesting how, you know, for folks in the program, for folks in that particular program, where to see the vibe coding working and operating was, you know, the aha moment. And they were like, wait, like, can I actually type something into this and it's going to produce something specific that I might try to use? And the answer was yes. So I don't have the window to put play to this, but this is a quick demonstration of something that I vibe coded and prompted. Maybe put it on mute, just in case. And basically that's, you know, for you, this might not be new. This is AI Studio in the works. I created a fake personal economics organization, and I created a fake data set of sorts, and I prompted this assistant that is going to produce a digest of metrics with actionable suggestions. And again, this is a prototype. Let's say we have a team. You can show this to a developer and say, hey, this would be the type of tool that might be a game changer around my team, because I want my team to read more metrics. So that was version 1, and what you are seeing over there is actually the very tool offering me to add more level and nuance into it. So right there is offering me, hey, would you like me to add a copy to clipboard sort of button after I produce the insights, and I say, yeah, why not? So it's, right there, it's already in the works. So, an LLM first reasons and then gets to work. And now we're getting to see the coding part of it, which again, to me, as a almost close to zero level coder, was mind blowing. And at the very first moment. So now it's quickly, and this is real time, so recorded in real time. Mm-hmm. So very quickly it just came up with something else. And while this is going out, I also want to tell you about what happened in this prototyping sprint. The newsrooms that I work with ended up developing assistants that solve, for example, editorial guideline communication for commercial teams of a news organization. This might have happened to you. The commercial team sends a branded content sort of product, and they just run it by themselves, and they don't respect too much the editorial guidelines, and usually there's a conversation and a back and forth in between, the editorial person and the commercial person. They created an assistant that already has the guidelines, so they told their commercial person, hey, every time you have a script, run it through this, and we should be sorted, and we should, going back into these discussions again and again and again. Insights for metrics, image re-editing. There are a ton of things that could be done with this. So yeah, I don't know, this is not switching? Yeah, I wanted to switch.
That was the second one, right? This is the second one or no?
Yeah, I mean, we should just jump into the next one.
Ow, whoopsie.
Yeah, okay, basically it's just that. And again, to go back I see myself as a product person. Like, if you know how the product discovery journey works, then I saw the prototype, the best chances it has, not only for validation, because it's not the only thing that we want as journalists. We want something that we could keep iterating as well. And yeah, and the bottom line in this case would be that you can use this tool for many other things and not just content. And that's sort of where I come from. So yes, the inspiration on this side of things would be, think about it as also a potential tool that you may use for audience purposes, for monetization, and other sorts of things. So yeah, that gives us a complete, or a sort of broader view of what you can do. So let's jump into cheat sheets, right?
Oh gosh, yeah, no, yeah. I think, a lot of what you said, it really rings true to me. And I feel like it's that first question, right? What do we think about? When you're thinking about a problem, maybe you came in with an idea already. Mm-hmm. Maybe you had no idea what you wanted to do at all. You're at the same spot. Thinking about just focusing on a problem and a challenge. I know we had somebody talking earlier about just thinking about what kind of problem or challenge. Don't worry, we got a cheat sheet for you next, so don't worry, we got more for you. An actual one. So, what is it that fascinates you? What do you want to learn about? What is that thing that if you had maybe an extra, 8 to 40 hours in the week, you'd be able to get done.
Exactly.
And then figure out what that is and center on that problem and just attack that problem relentlessly, right? Because if your focus really is on that problem, then you'll be able to hopefully find that good solution and work it out. That is always, for me, it's always been something that's really been key to me, right? How do you get curious about what's in that idea? And then, yeah, we're going to have a wonderful sheet for that. We have wonderful tools, which the deep site, AI Studio, Firebase Studio is in the list too, which is not on here, but Claude, Lovable. Folks have been talking up Lovable for a while. Yeah. And yes, don't put your public keys on the internet, folks. When people find them, they can rack up your bill pretty quickly. I'm speaking for other people, of course, but you don't want to be liable for a lot of money based on, and yes, I used the US dollar, sorry. I could have put pounds there, but you don't want to be liable for a ton of calls that somebody else is making on your keys. Mm-hmm. So please, if you're using large language models and you're trying to put them on the public internet, make sure you're protecting all of the keys that you have. They are super important to you. But yes, So that, and I think there's some more on there, but actually we can just show it off real quick. This is the QR code to get access to the wonderful cheat sheet. This cheat sheet you should be able to make a copy of pretty quickly. It's a cool Google Doc. Hopefully it will inspire you to come to our next session tomorrow, because we could use this doc as a guide to think about, iterate, and try your own ideas. we have like 45 minutes tomorrow, so it's going to be very tight to figure out how to get to your own ideas. So hopefully this will jumpstart what you want to think about. If you're having a problem, if everybody's having a problem with scanning and getting that doc, you can all just find me tomorrow, but no. I was thinking about making dittos, but it ended up being 2 pages, so I really felt like that was going to really hurt a lot of paper. So I figured that, and I didn't want to ask the JournalismAI folks that have been so wonderful in facilitating everything to print a bunch of stuff, which I've done to other people in the past. So I figured that, that a nice QR code would work, and hopefully for the people out there on the web, they can get this too. And that guide, that cheat sheet should look like this little guy. So, right, think of a challenge. We just talked about that. Think of a challenge. What is your ideal experience? I mentioned how everybody understands information differently. What is the best way for you to understand this problem, right? You're centering on a problem, but you personally need to think about what is the best solution for me? Especially when we're talking about what you were cooking up there, right? Like understanding information. Understanding information in the context of journalism, right? But understanding data in the context of understanding our users and our audience and prototyping. So think about your user journey. We've talked about that a little bit, right? The shape of what it will actually be. There's wonderful further down fun parts to this, but yes, we write all of our wonderful tools here. Remember that these tools, even though we're showing you cool stuff that worked the first time, remember that it took us at least 2 to 3 hours to get it to this stage. Yep. So, so we're just taking that and truncating all that time. That's why we don't do it live. Yeah. Because I mean, I've seen live demos already, and you know everything can go wrong with a live demo. So here are all different tools that you can use with the links to each of them. And yeah, remember that you're not going to put something public. Think about that framework of just a minimum viable product. What is the best thing that's going to get this job done? And I always think about it in the context of your idea, build it, measure, learn, and kind of continue through that cycle. Continue through that cycle as much as you can. And I would say the one thing about vibe coding makes you a much better tester. One of the first jobs I ever got out of college was doing quality assurance testing of fantasy games. You'd be surprised how many people get mad when their fantasy American football things are wrong. But it makes me a better tester in that sense. Like I have an understanding of like what the issue is, and yeah, even if you just can see like, hey, something went wrong, you'll be able to tell the model what went wrong and fix this, or something's broken, and that'll hopefully make you better in the long run for all this. But yes, this is accessible for all of you. I see all the people in the docs. That's super. You should be able to make a copy. Hopefully I built that right. I didn't see anybody writing in there, so that means I think I did it right. And you can get that right here to scan wonderfully. And I think that's what we got, right? So, so tomorrow we can use that doc to find your ideas and work them out, and we can all talk about all the different ideas that everybody has. And then,
What we thought about this session with Ryan was like, how could we use the 2 instances that we have, like today and tomorrow? And today was all about like, throwing all the information at you and hopefully get you thinking of something specific that you may want to try with us tomorrow. And it will be more hands-on. And one of the things that is needed, as Ryan was saying, is time in order to get back, come up with your first prompt and then get back and re-ask the model to redo it again, tweak stuff, add stuff. So to have the time to do that is the very point of tomorrow's session, in which we are not going to be talking so much, at least not that much.
I hope, I hope not as much as this, but also for the live people out there in the audience, they have something I just point to the camera because
nice.
But everybody in the audience, right, has this resource, so they can go and do that. Tomorrow we won't be live streaming, which is another benefit, right? And I think we did that intentionally so that you could come and work out any and all of your different ideas and not worry about them being put on the internet publicly immediately. So, you'll be able to be welcome to bring any different type of idea, and I hope that you'll join us. And anybody have any questions? Happy to answer anything for you.
Let's bring the room in.
Oh, I gotta get that microphone.
Can you explain a little this warning about the keys? What would they look like, and how would they show up? Just in order to avoid that trap, you made it sound really scary.
I try to fear cast it on purpose just because every secret that you hold, all those different kinds of tokens and secrets for anybody who's built stuff on the internet, you know that it's possible that somebody could grab that and then start doing things that you might not necessarily want to happen with them, right? So, so I don't want to speak for anybody else that may or may not be here, but if somebody got one of your keys to one of these systems, they could just start prompting for something that you didn't even want to do, right? They could just start firing. Oh yeah. Oh, like an API key. Sorry, just like that kind of string of text, right? People could be out there on the internet guessing thousands of different strings of the internet, right? There's password protection, which is obviously super key. But there's a website out there that you can type your password in and you can see how long it would take for someone who is not necessarily as great at internet stuff than like we are, to get to your password, and you could see hey, will it take them years or months or weeks, or if your password is password or if your password is Louvre, they might get to it pretty quickly. So so that's why I say that. Yeah. So I'm fearcasted because when you take something from Firebase Studio or Claude or any of these things, and you could put that so one of the other examples I have using Firebase Studio is a AI recommender for the top high schools in the United States, and that is using the model, then accessing the information and giving the recommendation each time. So this story is not doing any of that. So I feel fine putting that out there to show to people. But if it is something that is going to access that LLM, what if somebody just went to my page and started clicking it 1,000 times, right? Then I need to do the CAPTCHA and make sure I verify they're human and all those kinds of things. So that's where all the fear driving is coming from.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Thank you both so much.
Yeah, we'll wait for you tomorrow.